We're here live here at Thruxton. Very warm welcome to the Formula Racing League BTCC Championship. After an amazing couple of rounds here, we're here at the Britain's fastest racetrack. We're currently under race one, where it is Wilson that leads, followed by Taylor and Messina in second and third respectively. And Smith just recently dropped down to the order. Join alongside me though as Alex Battani alongside. Hello.
Hello, Emily. How are you today?
Great. I never thought that we'd have the broadcast here today, but with a bit of application issues, our very good friend Remco Dezeo, alongside with the camera work, did all the fixing he's done, and now we're here in live picture, so big thanks over to Over. We've already seen a couple of retirements in Kototchva and Brewster in the early stages, and as we approach through to the half one, we've got 3 races in our hand, and Wilson seems to be doing very, very well to handle for that pace. 3.6 seconds, the gap between himself and Taylor, and this is going to be extremely important, especially for Wilson, who's, I think this might be his first race, I believe.
Yep, despite being 8 laps in, Wilson is not able to break that first gap. Despite him being able to lead the midfield, he's still not running away from Taylor and Messina and Smith, who still those little bit of gaps, but just still keeping under pressure, not wanting to make a mistake as Wilson.
Yeah, absolutely. Correct me if I'm wrong, Callum Wilson has actually been winning many times in the rear-wheel drive category, and I think is looking very strong here. Jason Taylor just alongside him. He's been always the bridesmaid, but never the bride, and entirely as that's Taylor. That I think was that him going pretty slowly. That will allow for Messina to catch up ever so slightly, as it's going down to only 1.1 seconds. There could be an opportunity for Messina going. Is that someone gone off in the grass there?
I believe that was Smith in the background there. The gap's growing from 7 seconds to the leader to 8. Smith just looking to get a little bit wide, but Taylor definitely did look like he was going slowly there.
Definitely was, and he was already running around the top 2 before we just started streaming, and he's already dropped down a couple of places down to 4th, and this is not at all helping his case. He's still got a hefty gap, at least ahead of Moral, to facilitate for that, as Moral, I think, could be he's not under pressure from Goodway just yet, still 6.6, so bit of even at the moment. Papernopoulos is just slightly at the edge of Husa to maybe make an overtake, we might see, but Cena doing very all he can in his Cooper to try his best to catch up through to Taylor, as this could be a very interesting battle. Messina, I think, is the fastest car at the moment, not the fastest car, the only one in the podium that holds through a forward wheel drive car, the Cooper Leon, with Taylor and Wilson up ahead, both donning through, I believe it is the BMW 33E0E. So BMW seems to be doing very strong here, but Carlo could break that BMW podium if he can. He's got about 6 laps left to do, and then hopes to apply enough pressure. 2 seconds though. It's going to be quite hefty tax though for the Italian to see if he can break it up through. As you can see there, Smith also in the Hyundai. Marcelo, I think he sold the first of the Toyotas in 5th. I think that's also another Vauxhall in Goodway. As we see back over this, Papernopoulos, who's catching up through to the Cooper of Houston. This could be an interesting battle for P8, and if you look further down behind as well, Alex, Rogers could maybe find a way through as well.
Yeah, we see Tom Brunel on the back of Rogers here. Could he make a move into what I believe to be through Village now, onto the little bit of braking there, but we see Tom Brunel overtake Rogers, and Papa, I think that is, I'll just say for now, looks to be trying to make a move on Hudson. Is he going to try and go around the outside? A bit wide, very wide there. He's going to have to get that up. No tyres on the track limits there, but it's allowing Hudson to keep ahead, but relatively big gaps around the midfield, as we can see, as Rogers trying to look for a move back pass around the outside. He's not able to get it through, entering the chicane, Amir.
Now, Rogers very really under pressure from Brunel behind, as this is an intense battle for P10. Papernopoulos, who's just ever so close to Hudson, it might make the move again into turn 1, side by side between these two, and Hudson does not budge at all whatsoever. Same with the Rogers up against Brunel, and we're seeing 2 fights kind of come over. Is it going to, are we maybe going to see a group into 4 maybe? Maybe in a 4-car battle for P8? Only time will certainly tell, and it could apply even more pressure into Hudson, so he's going to hope that Rogers Hudson and Brunel continue to fight and hopefully put this fight against Papadopoulos to bed though, as that is Rogers going wide. Brunel will make his 3 up into 10th place, but Rogers drops down, and that is the yellow flag in the first sector. My goodness me, so close to hitting the back of Trezan, but he luckily holds onto the brakes, and Stu unfortunately drops down for the order.
That is something you never want to see if you're in the shoes of Shazam. You never want to see a car backing up into the middle, but thankfully Rogers was able to hold the brake, as we see Antonis trying to look again around the outside of Hudson. He's going to switch it to the inside, going to be wheel to wheel, just barely alongside, but Hudson managing to keep ahead as we head towards what I believe to be into club. The final chicane of this section, a little bit of a rear wiggle there from Antonis, but he's managing to take a brilliant line, a bit of curb takeage, but still Hudson's able to keep ahead.
Absolutely dragging through that club chicane. Papadopoulos was a lot more slider there than Hudson, so we'll see how Houston can handle against Antonis as we go through to approaching over through to Campbell and Cobb up next. A very hard braking zone is that going a little bit wide. I think that might be the advantage to Papadopoulos, but depends how he navigates for the rest of Cobb and Seagrave on the exit. I think he's done pretty okay, not as good as the car ahead though, but you can sort of see following back there Brunel slowly catching up through, and as we've said a bit before, we could have seen this come into a 4-car battle. Well, we've got just one slightly less. It's going to be a 3-car battle here between Houston, Papadopoulos and Brunel, but we'll see how this duel continues on between Papadopoulos and Houston though, as they push their through to the second sector, and this is going to be super close, nearly from bumper to bumper between these two, and the Vauxhall driver trying to make his way on through. He's gone for the grass once again. Is he going to try and look for a move? We have to see. Pushing through to the 3rd sector. Club, a very good opportunity that Papadopoulos is going to try and aim for, but he's too far back though.
Antonis and Hudson definitely struggling through that sector number 1, but we can see Antonis just taking a much better line through that final chicane. He's going to have a run heading through into Allard, but this is all allowing Brunel to try and catch up as he goes down the inside. Antonis to make the position up into P8. Hudson's going to try and stick with him as they head into Campbell and Cobb now, but they're just needing to get ahead now. They need to use the clean air to their advantage because Brunel is right there, Amir.
Absolutely. I mean, Houston just seems to be a lot better for Cobb and Seagrave, but not strong enough for the first turn though, as he goes off. Flynn nearly loses up, but manages to keep the car under control, and Tom's kind of smells an opening as they approach over through to Noble and then through to Goodwood, and he's got lots of pressure coming from behind as Brunel wants to make a double overtake that maybe Houston might be in big trouble by the Vauxhalls. Now that has but one been ahead, and it could be another for Tom as he's gonna dip into the grass though. Tom's gonna try and look down for the inside. He's gonna barge his way and pass through. An absolute surprise through to Hudson. How can he manage against this through the 3rd sector? Brunel giving us absolutely everything. You'll have the inside line through to Club, but you have to keep it holding on through side by side through Brooklands. He manages to do it now here in the Club, and they come, and Brunel makes his way on through. A bit of contact between the two, and it is indeed a double Vauxhall overtake. As that disconnect there from Hudson, maybe almost. No, he doesn't. He managed to rejoin at least on the track. Oh no, he's disappeared.
Hudson's seeming to lose all compression there. We see him struggling with his internet, almost like he's being abducted by aliens. As we see him do a drift, he's disappeared. I think that may be a disconnect right there. But Brunel managing to put the pressure on exactly where he wants it. Brunel having done that switchback through what I believe to have been Church, but unfortunately that may be Hudson out of the race. Is that? Yeah, Hudson's out of the race, unfortunately.
Very unfortunate there. Another retirement added, and kind of adds to the Cooper grave that Touchville has retired earlier on. And Rogers, I think, has maybe suffered for an incident on his own, as he's currently down in 12th. Looking up ahead to Alan Smith, who's still about 2 seconds away shy of Messina. We were thinking that Messina would have been maybe close enough to make a move onto Taylor, but we've approached over for 2 laps left to go, and that move has not developed at all, Alex, because well, the gap has actually increased between Carlo and Taylor.
Yeah, now as we watch Smith now, he's just trying to keep it nice and clean, making sure not to make 2 mistakes. He's just praying for Messina ahead to make that mistake. He's just using that clean air to his advantage, as we see Messina making their way through Village and into Church. Just let's see how they take this line. We've seen what was it, Brunel, or Hudson taking it a lot wide here. but it may just be a Cooper thing as we see Messina take that corner nicely, Amir.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a very good thing that he's at least the leading of the forward-wheel drives because, well, currently at the moment, Messina's standing at 53 points, so this could, with Papadopoulos being 8th, this could overtake the Greek driver in the championship, but it is still race 1. We've still got a couple more races left to go. We're approaching over to the final lap of the race. I think all the positions are going to be as they stand. Callum Wilson, who's done all he's possibly can in this day and age. Oh, we got a brief yellow flag in the third sector, but should be clear. I think he's done all he's possibly can in that BMW, and he will happily bring it home on his end. Jason Taylor following through behind, who's currently about 10-second drift. He didn't appear back in the fourth round, but then return to glory, he will equal his best result in this championship with another second place. And well, we'll see if Wilson can pull off what he did back in last round. The last round he got all race wins in 1, 2, and 3, and he's maybe on course to do that in exactly the same fashion in the wheel drive class through to the final corners at Club. He's done everything he's possibly done, and Wilson brings on an absolute dominant display here at Thruxton, and a fantastic race win as the checker flag drops for race 1. We see with Jason Taylor through to the final corner, it's another second place added to him, and what a great performance that was from the other BMW driver as well. Messina just slightly under pressure from Smith though, but the gap was big enough for the Italian to pull off to at least a race podium in the end, and a race class win on his. And Smith, he's the current front wheel championship leader, and that he will only be enough for a second place. That as Marcel Moran completes through to the top 5, gave good way in 6th, and that was Brunel almost sliding and nearly losing it, but does manage to recover, and he will be one of the last of the finishers with Charles and Oso finishing as well. So that will be only 10 cars finishing here today, as I've realized that Rogers has also, I think, he's gone to the pits at Houston as well, so they were lapped. But yeah, through to the line they'll go. So that was Papadopoulos in 8th, Brunel at 9th, Jazan in 10th. So that's been our 12 car finishes, I believe. So I think Houston, even though he's retired, I think might classify, but do not quote me on that. So there's Milios through to the line, and Wilson is your race 1 leader. So that's been that's a pretty good 16 lap race, I must say. And we've still got 2 more left to go, Alex.
Yes, did one thing to note, Amir, did Antonis have issues on the last lap? Because we saw Tom Brunel, even with that massive snap through Church, he was catching a lot, and the gap at the end was only about 6/10. So did Antonis possibly have a fuel issue? Yeah, he was still able to finish the race. But here's our race classification. We've got Callum Wilson, P1, Jason A. Taylor, P2, Carlo Messina holding off Alan Smith for P3 and P4 respectively, Marcin Morel in P5, Dave Goodway in P6, Doug Wickens in the only Ford is in P7. We've got Antonis in P8, Tom Brunel in P9, Misolos Sharzan in P10. Yeah, P11 we have Stu Rogers. From the looks of it, still classified, but don't quote any of us on that. And unfortunately, DNF, and we have Dave Brewster and Yuri Krachevich. Sorry.
And it's only been only a handful of cars that have finished. Well, sorry, handful of cars that have retired. But Thruxton again being a very fast track. I'm not quite sure how well you know it, but yeah, one of the fastest that we have here on the calendar, and one of the fastest here of the home of the motorsport in the UK. It's been a fantastic track, and it's always hosted a plethora of series, not just in the British Touring Car Championship, but also in the British Superbikes, and with a couple of others. Used to be also a staple in the olden days for British Formula 3. It's always been, it's a very interesting one, isn't it? It's a bit like Silverstone on drugs, isn't it?
Yeah, very high speed circuit here. One that I'm not too familiar on. I'm not sure about you, Amir, but I've never personally raced this. But from what we've seen just now, it's very high speed. But just those little technical parts that can always catch a driver out. You want to be able to have high speed, but through those chicanes, for example, with Club, you've got Campbell, Cobb, and Seagrave. You just want to have a little bit of downforce on that front end, just to keep the front end going through there. But you need to be able to keep an eye on that top line speed. You don't want to get too slow to be swamped up by the pack.
Pushing over through to the second race server in a couple of moments. Again, round 5 is what is concluding to be the first half of the British Touring Car Challenge Championship here. Just a quick reminder for the rest of the races that we have coming up in few times. Round 6 will be coming over to Scotland. The Scottish Premier Racing destination of Knockhill will host it for round 6. Round 7 will be going through to the Grand Prix layout of the Donington track. That it is, oh, this is a very interesting one. We don't often race here in rFactor 2, but this is still quite exciting. Croft Circuit will be hosting through to round 8, and then we've got our final 2 rounds. It's going to be very interesting one. The Silverstone National layout, so it's going to be the International Start Finish Straight and Maggots and Beckets, and it cuts off through to the to that straight in the first sector. And then in round 10, it will be the Brands Hatch Grand Prix layout, often a staple as a finale in the real life BTCC. It will happily take over the reins in this championship as well. So a very good calendar, lots of interesting prospects and a lot of things for the drivers to look forward to. I'm very interested for how they will navigate through Croft, because it's not often a track that most drivers would be familiar with, and compared to like Donington or Silverstone or Brands, they're like a lot more well known than the likes of, say, Croft, Knockhill, and dare I say sometimes Thruxton as well.
Yeah, very exciting to see what race 2 will throw. From what we saw in race 3, the top 4 were just able to pull away. Obviously, we weren't able to see the first half, and we do apologise for the technical issues that forced us to miss half of that race. But like I said, Amir, I'm excited to see what race 2 can throw. I'm not sure if they do it reverse grid like how we've seen in other leagues. You may just have to correct me on that.
I believe it is the finishing order, I think. Oh, I'll need to just a quick double check just to be sure on that. But I believe it is. I think it is the finishing one. But actually, I've got the rules and regs with the PDF. Oh boy. Where is it? There it is. No, that's not it. Oh god, this is old. Help. Yeah, Remco's telling us that it is. There, the race is based on the finishing order. There, yeah. So he's speculating. No, I think I was right. The grid for race 2 is based on the finishing order of race 1, and then it is race 3. A draw takes place to decide which place the grid is reversed. So it's a lottery in race 3. In race 2, though, it is based on the finishing order, so that means it'll make it all the more easier for the leaders to pull away, just similar for what they have done in race 1. So we might expect the same old, but also, again, with the people that have retired, it gives themselves like a second redemption to not better the chances for race 3, but to at least score some points for race 2. And well, since race 3 is a great randomizer, really no one is like safe from holding their positions in race 2. So that is kind of thrown out the window in some ways. So this could be quite interesting, Alex.
Yeah, we obviously saw the BMWs leading the pack, but we also saw that Crutcherville was in a BMW. Could he show that maybe the BMWs are just the lead in the pack today? Obviously, we didn't get to see what he could do, as by the time we got on there, he was unfortunately out of the race. But also, I'm curious what the Cupras and Vauxhalls can do. They're the most popular cars for this track, it seems, so maybe there's a bit of advantage for that BMW, as we see the Hyundai there going very off there. Just doing a bit of off-course rallying. But yeah, mate, I'm excited to see what can happen.
The curious thing was, whenever we were kind of watching the battle between Papadopoulos and Brunel up against the person that retired in Houston, they were all 4 front-wheel drive cars, and I think from the comparison for how they navigated that chicane, for instance, I think you can only set up in such a way that you can, because Thruxton, you want to maximize the amount of speed that you possibly can, but I think for the front wheel cars, I think that will make you lose the stability in the corners if you try to tailor it for speed. But we didn't really see the same issues in terms of the leaders, especially for the BMW, as again we've seen how quick that was. But then they also like pulled away very quickly from the sole front wheel on the podium in Carlos. So again, it's not just that the BMW is particularly strong. I think maybe in general the rear wheel might be quicker around Thruxton than the front wheels.
Yeah, obviously, you say with the front wheels, they weren't able to hold their speed through the chicanes. I do remember when we were watching, we saw Antonis and I think it was Rogers through Campbell, Cobb, and Seagrave. They were just losing the rear end, left, right, and centre, obviously, which allowed Tom Brunel to catch up. But seeing the P3 car being a front wheel drive, maybe that's just showing that they're not that as comfortable that they should be, and race 2 will hopefully be able to build up their confidence.
Interesting, really, in the British Touring Car Challenge with the amount of cars that there's really available, and for every BTCC like manufacturer there is to choose from, it's kind of weird because I think for sometimes you kind of often like base your like driving style what car you have, but then it can also be the other way. You can also tailor the car to what skill you have, but there's like such a fine limitation in terms of how much the car and driver can really work together, and as well in different circuits there's different strengths and there's different weaknesses. So Thruxton was again, as we've said it before many times over, is going to easily be the fastest truck that we have in this series. So again, it's going to be how well you can handle through these high speed corners, and even though there's the club in the final corner, it's not really a difference maker compared to the first and second and the beginning of the third sector. So we're kind of seeing that already in real time for those for that characteristic. I think as well there are people, I was reading over through the chat just before, there are people also that have switch manufacturers as well, so they would have less time getting acquainted to that car in comparison to maybe others that have held that car for a longer duration of the season. So like one race in this compared to the already 5 that we've had. But I think we're waiting for the lights to go on when there's no formation light whatsoever. Lights are coming on. We're off and we're on again for race 2. Pretty decent start there by Wilson as Taylor follows swiftly down behind. Smith has beaten Messina into turn 1, and that will allow for the Hyundai to get himself up into the top 3. Very clean and for turn 1 as the BMWs they'll take the lead once again. Messina's going to try and see to make him move around. Is that Goodway trying to make him move up against Moore? He's going to certainly try, unable to do so as they navigate for our first slow technical area of the track. And still side by side, all trickles down into a single file line, and Wilson once again leads without any issues, and no issues from anyone whatsoever at the moment.
Everyone making it cleanly through the first part of the CS. We look at the Hyundai, having a look at the BMW there. Alan Smith looking for a move on Taylor there, just sticking their nose on the inside, but not able to make that move. Taylor leaving no space whatsoever, but can Alan Smith make a move down towards Church Corner now? Trying to hold the speed through. We can see a lot of curb usage. Who's that good run? That's Messina. Messina is round. We saw the loose in the rear end, keeping it onto the grass, getting out of the way there. I just wondered, did they just hold their front one, just lose the rear end there? Amir, sorry.
It's fine, Alex. There's just, again, the difficulties of holding that car through the high-speed corners. We were talking about that as an insurmountable challenge for the front-wheel drive cars. And Messina, who's done very well in, was actually the first place in that class. Having to lose it means that none of those drivers are at all safe. So this could be posing a bit of a danger to Smith. He wants to keep high up against Taylor. But also Taylor seems to be a little bit struggling more than per usual, because usually we'd see him more front with Wilson, but now he has to really worry about the Hyundai behind, and if things don't go through Taylor's way, he could be at risk of losing P2 to Smith as he sees the opening and trying to make a move for it though.
A very close contact there between Taylor and Smith. Smith's not leaving any sort of inch for Taylor to make that mistake there as we're heading through Village back towards Church Corner. Alan Smith looking a bit farther away than he did last lap around. But we see that he's just able to take a lot more throttle as we look at the replay now. So this is Messina, as we just see just losing the rear end before the corner really began. I think just a bit too much on the brakes there. I'm not. What's your thoughts about it, Amir?
He didn't touch the brakes at all, which was the biggest surprise. Usually in that sort of circumstances, you maybe like have a tap on the brakes, but no, he thinks that he could have done it no brakes. and it just he didn't have enough area at all to counter steer that. He would risk going into the grass, and maybe he was thinking, no, I can maybe still rescue it just a little bit, and unfortunately it didn't quite work out at all. Papadopoulos meanwhile had a pretty good start. He started in P and he's jumped 2 positions, and he is into P6 at the moment. I realized there's no position changes because I think we didn't do the formation lap, so I think that might be the reason. But we'll see how Papadopoulos does. He's got Moro up ahead, who is P5 in race 1 and is still in a bit of no man's land in that Toyota Corolla in P5 again, but he could be in a bit of a pickle if Papadopoulos makes his way on past. He did very well to make his way past through Bonnell and through Hudson, so he could do the same up against Marcin.
Yeah, but once again at the front we can see Callum Wilson leading the way as Chuzan makes a bit of a mistake. He's going to be under pressure from Hudson as they head through down into the Brooklands. Is he going to try and go around the outside? I think he is. Hudson going into P9, but they don't want to make any mistakes because they got Brewster right behind them as they head through the final chicane, through Club and head onto the main straight. Shazam just managing to keep it ahead, but using that toe, Hudson's going to try and go for a move through Allard and into the chicane.
Very, very good move there by Hudson to keep applying the pressure there. Papadopoulos, though, through to come is going to try and look for the inside line to apply pressure to Morrow, but Morrow holds his ground through Cobb, and he'll lead out through Seagrave, still into P5. A good attempt there by Papadopoulos, but nothing at all materialized at all for the Greek driver, and we'll have to think about how he'll have to tackle up against the Polish. We're approaching our through to Goodwood, and very heartbreaking zone there. You can already see Antonis just wrestling through the driving controls and trying to keep that car aiming straight as both of them are going to navigate through to Church. This is where Messina again lost it, and you can just see the amount of sliding the Greek driver has to do does go off just ever so slightly, but not at all on the grass, which is all the more important. Keeping applying the pressure on tomorrow is not going to be close enough to make any sort of move into Club, and it is more that will still lead for P5 at the moment.
Actually, it is looking rather comfortable. I don't know about you, Amir, but he seems to take a lot of the curbs, which is more than Antonis can do in that Vauxhall. We saw him heading through Church, just losing the rear end. That's something that Antonis is going to have to keep in mind as they head towards Campbell and Cobb Corner. Is he going to try and make a move down the inside once again? No, he just stays behind. He's not able to gain as much time against Morale. We can really see how much that Toyota is able to take the curbs. But all of this battling is allowing Wickens just to keep with them now there, Amir.
It is, but they're just not quite fighting enough to really invite Doug Wickens into this picture. And again, we've mentioned before about how much fighting can bring people together in some ways. I think Doug just needs to hope that Papadopoulos and Moore just battle for at least one lap in order to really close that gap. As you see behind that is Brewster going a bit off track. Oh my goodness me, he spins round through into the track, and Hudson has to just avoid with some precaution, and luckily manages to get out for unscathed, as Brewster doesn't manage to hit for anything though, but he's got a very long time to get back into racing speed, so he'll lose another position through to Rogers, and as the that gets himself up to 11th. So that could have been pretty bad there for Dave, but luckily he is still running, and at least in P12 and not into our first retirement.
Yeah, as we look at the replay here, just onto the grass, does he just do that little bit of throttle to try and keep the pack, but flatlining it when it's spinning around, that's not going to help him. Very well skilled to keep it going straight. We now look on board with Stu Rogers. I believe this is where he just is going to come around the blind corner to see the car slow up ahead. That is it. And yeah, so just not able to keep that throttle on the grass. Is he going to try and go around the outside? Oh, this is it. This is him going around the outside, I know.
Yeah, reacts accordingly, realizes there's a slow car ahead on the racing line, and takes the evasive action as he possibly can. And that's the near scare moment for Hudson, but does let go of the throttle ever so slightly. Didn't keep it up to racing speed and was very cautious, and that's what allowed him to have a clean front bumper and can now hold on to P10. As that is Rogers dropping down again. Is that going to be a second spin that we've seen from Rogers? That's Carlo Messana that has jumped ahead. Oh, and it's gone from bad to worse No, that was actually Rogers who's gone off. So this is his first spin. Is this the same one that's happened to Brewster just a lap prior? I wonder. It's exactly for the same spot though, as Papadopoulos goes right down for the inside of Marcin into Allard.
Antonis and Morale wheel to wheel heading towards Campbell now. Antonis got that inside line, but the Toyota we know can take this corner right well. A bit of a pushing off, but we're both able to keep it on the track, and it's both clean and respectful. So we head through into Seagrave, heading towards Noble. Antonis manages to keep up into P5, Amir.
Good thing about these cars is that they can take a bit of a beating. You can nudge your way past on through. It's completely acceptable within touring car rules. Is this another yellow flag in the first sector, but seems to be cleared up at the moment. But Papadopoulos, more importantly, up into P5, and that might be Brewster that's struggling. Oh my goodness me, is that, oh, there's a big issue with Dave's car. I'm wondering if that could be a suspension issue. Is this going to mark our first retirement, especially for the one in the BMW class? I think it might be. That's a dreadfully unfortunate way for Brewster to end his race too, as he seems to have, yeah, he called it quits, and that's going to be a retirement as we're approaching for the halfway distance. It's Wilson that still leads. He's about 1.7 seconds away from Taylor, and we initially thought that Taylor would be under pressure from Smith, but luckily he's managed to put his foot down. It's now gone to 5.6 seconds between Smith and the leader. So Taylor and Wilson doing very good to push themselves away from the Hyundai driver.
Wilson's not really running away like he did in race 1 here, mate. The gap's only 2.9 seconds. By last race when we started the stream, it was about 3 or 4 seconds. So is Wilson just making sure to reserve his car, just making sure he doesn't get any damage, just doing damage limitation as he heads towards Church now. And also Alan Smith, as we see Morel trying to get past Antonis again. The closest gap we have between the entire field, Marcin's not letting Antonis go away. He wants that P5 back. Dude, that's precious points in the championship, Amir.
We've seen Wickens and Brunel also in the midst of a fight. We thought Wickens would join in the fight with Moran Papadopoulos, but we'll have to worry about the car behind it, Brunel. And Brunel has done very good in terms of fighting from what we have seen in race 1. So he's got a bit more experience in him in terms of fighting through Thruxton than Wickens does. And Wickens may be coming in a little bit more colder in terms of what he have to do in terms of attacking and defending here at Thruxton. But he's certainly going to try and give it a bit of a spin as we approach over down through to turn 1. Again, just very close onto the grass as you possibly can, but luckily these cars are actually very controllable in the grass that we've seen in comparison to other cars that we may have commentated on rFactor 2. As there's Brunel, he almost sees an opening, tries to get his nose in through Wickens, but Wickens immediately denies the opportunity. Jazan goes a little bit wide, but should be fine as we approach through to the exit, almost out through to the first sector, and it is still Wickens that leads for Brunel, and up ahead, Papadopoulos still ahead from Morel.
Yeah, Tom Brunel putting all of the pressure on Dan Wickens as they headed through that chicane, looking for an opening left, right and centre, but Brunel just doesn't seem to be as comfortable as Wickens through this little section. Does that Ford just have a bit more of that balance throughout the high-speed corners? We know that they are quite sliding through the high-speed corners, but this does look like a brilliant exit from Brunel, heading towards Brooklands now. Just trying to use that slipstream to make a move. Unfortunately, it's not as powerful as any other racing series as we head into the final chicane. Doug Wickens, a lot on the brakes there. It's going to allow Tom Brunel another shot heading towards Club.
The thing about Club is that it's it's actually curves before you go into the chicane, so you actually need to brake in a little bit earlier. It's not just straight and then immediately a hard braking zone. It's a medium speed corner that goes into a hard braking zone, and that's what kind of sort of nullifies it to be a proper overtaking zone, as that is a big yellow flag in the third sector. Is that Rogers? It is Rogers that has happened again. This is coming up through to the third sector, I believe, and luckily continues to keep the Cooper on going, but it's dropped down to about 37 seconds. I think his car might be totaled. I'm not quite sure, Alex, but he's very lucky to have kept that car running.
Yeah, we're looking at the replay now. I think this is just going to see, is it the same corner as Messina? I think it is, just going a bit wide and losing the rear end. Keeping it out of the wall though. Just keep going it backwards. I think he's just trying to get out of the way just in case anyone comes over that crest. So just not looking as comfortable. We saw those Cupras are very unstable through that fast right as he's still continuing Amir. So that's one thing he's going to try and damage limitations. We see Tom Brunel making a bit of a barge and heading through into P7 through that club corner. He's managed to finally get the overtake now. As we see, Morel is still 5/10 off Antonis, but Brunel's managed to get the overtake, Amir.
Fantastic overtake by Brunel, but I think Wickens was not at all expecting it through club, which hence explains why that contact. As you can see, Wickens just flashing a bit, showcasing the unexpectedness of the situation, as he's going to try his best to maybe claw his way back up through to P7 through Brunel. But I think Brunel might be a bit quicker on a one-lap pace than Wickens is. As you can see, that gap, 5.7 seconds. Oh my goodness me, there's Charizard and Houston both going wide on the exit, and it's Houston that comes off the worst of it. Charizard might lose P10 to Messina, and indeed he does, and that's Messina up into P9, but Houston much up for the worst of it. That was very unexpected to see both cars going wide and into the grass.
Yeah, these Cupras just not enjoying those high-speed corners. We've seen it before with Messina. I think this is going to be the replay now. We're on board with Chazan. He just runs wide. I think the Cupra just follows them off, but the Toyota just able to hold it on the grass and keep it going. I'm not sure if that's lower down the field there near the Toyota. I'm pretty sure he was running a bit higher up, so I'm not sure if he's made a mistake and fallen down the order that we haven't seen. But yeah, just unable to hold it is Hudson.
I have two Toyotas. It was more that's P6, I believe, at the moment. And Charizard, I think, was running around 9th at the time with Houston just behind him. So that might explain just a little bit. Wilkins, by the way, we thought that he would maybe lose on that gap to Brunel, but Brunel actually, not sure if he seems to be struggling or not, but can't seem to quite hold on to the lead. And Doug will have the slipstream that the Vauxhall will provide to him to maybe go for another attack once again, but Doug needs to be very, very careful in terms of the dirty air that Vauxhall ahead produces, and needs to really, especially in these corners, needs to take a different line, a different approach. One with top speed though! Doug Wilkins makes his way in 3, barges his way past on through, similar to what Brunel did at club corner, and Doug retakes P7. An incredible duel we're witnessing here, Alex.
Yeah, Wickens, sorry, just given a bit of a barge, but that is all acceptable in British touring cars. As we see Brunel in the slipstream, he's going to try and make a move into club through Brooklands now, still wheel to wheel as they enter the braking zone for club. Is Brunel able to hold it onto the inside of the first part of the chicane? He's able to keep the position.
Yeah, and Brunel had a great line through club, and he's absolutely gapped Wickens as well. 7/10 it was, just out from that corner alone, and that's given him all the breathing room that he's so desperately desired at this moment in time. But charging Carlo Messina, who's had the incident back at the village through Church, is making his way on through past these two cars as well. He's done very, very well to keep us nose clean ever since, and for the Italian, that's done very well. He could be eyed for maybe a P7 if he plays his card right, meaning that while up ahead Papadopoulos and Moro in the midst of a battle, Moro recently just got about through P5, but Antonius retakes it back, but Marston could be on course to get it right back off of him, side by side as they approach through to the third sector, as they go over through Brooklands, so close, sorry, that is through Goodwood, and I think through to Village, there we go, that's Brooklands, there we go, and it's Antonius that just gets about ahead for P5 at the very moment, and Marcel Moro is going to try and find his way line through to club, trying to mitigate and hold on to the racing line so he can apply the pressure through to the next time. As you see, Moro just so much more close, and there's Carlo Messina making his way on through against Wickens. Wickens goes wide, he was not expecting it for a very last minute break, and Carlo will happily take P8 off of him as Wickens got stuck into the off track and hits the bollard. I think he was expecting the bollard to be collidable, but I think it's a wool, and unfortunately for Doug, it's gonna be our second retirement. It's a very unfortunate way for Wickens, especially for how we fought Tom.
Yeah, but when you were saying that, Antonius does know where to park that car defensively, just parking it on the inside, just making sure that Marcin Morel does not get a look down the inside. But behind, Messina is losing a bit to Brunel, but Brunel is losing out to this battle here. Despite how brilliant it is, Brunel's just wanting to limit the mistakes, not get under pressure from Messina, but he's also wanting to make sure that he can catch up to the lot ahead.
You can see there, Morrill, he's given everything he possibly can into the church in Brooklyn because he knows if he makes a move for a club, his line is so much more better than Papadopoulos'. And Papadopoulos, we've seen him continuing to like slide. It's not his best area on track, and you can just see it again that Morrill just seems all the more superior, all the more composed. And Papadopoulos has to just try and give everything. He's effectively overdriving the car in order to hold on that gap to Morrill. And, well, everywhere else, I think Papadopoulos just about has the edge compared to Morrison. So we're seeing a bit of a game of chess going on here, but with 2 laps left to go, it could turn more into a sprint. And more about these two cars giving everything they possibly can, and hopefully that their advantages play to their strengths, and hopefully make it to conclude their battle for P5. So I think we got the replay for what has happened to Doug Wilkins. There he goes side by side with Carlo. Oh, and the car did not turn. I think that might have been a lockup. Hits over for the wheel. Thought this was collidable. Often like it's hard to explain in rFactor 2, but basically you just hit it and it moves out the way. But unfortunately it isn't. It's actually built into the track. I don't think Doug was expected, and hence the retirement.
Yeah, and throughout the field we've got several battles. We've got Smith up again, pressure from Goodway, and behind Messina is up against Brunel. The gap there is 2 tenths a second, but here we see Goodway, sorry, was 1 tenth away, but here we see Messina trying to go round the outside of Brunel, heading towards club corner, entering the braking zone now. Is Messina just able to hold the inside line defensively? Yes, they are, and it's a brilliant recovery drive from Messina as we enter the final lap now with them.
Great lap there by Messina. Has done everything he possibly can to recover. As we turn attention up ahead, we'll see if Brunel could do his best to capitalise back, but Smith could be under heavy pressure from Goodway, the current championship leader in the front wheel class. Could take away this class win away from Smith, but Smith just needs to do his best to kind of keep it under control, but he seems to be a lot more nervous in terms of handling the Hyundai than Goodway is in the Vauxhall, and it could be only a matter of time that Dave makes his way on past to take the class win in race 2, but he's just got a handful of corners less and hopefully to give it everything. Meanwhile, Smith has to do everything he possibly can. Callum Wilson makes it 2 race wins in a row here at Thruxton. A fantastic dominance display there in the BMW. Taylor will make his way on through second place, but further on ahead, this is going to be the battle for the last podium position here, at least on track. Goodway's going to give everything he possibly can. He goes off, he slides off. The championship leader is gone off track and he has to rejoin. He does so safely, and that will mean that Smith will happily take 3rd, and Goodway can only manage 4th. So he's been denied for the class win at the very last minute as Antonius Papadopoulos through Marcin Moore. These two have been dueling for absolutely ages, and it's Antonius that makes his way to just about clinch through P5 at the very last minute against Morrill. And further back, Messina, upon his incredible recovery drive, managed to defend off a charging Brunel for P7. Further on back it is Tarzan that completes over through 9th, and Houston, unlike last race, does manage to finish as he completes for our top 10.
What a battle for the last podium spot there, Amir. Just unfortunate that Goodway just lost it, but a brilliant rejoin. That's always what we want to see. A clean rejoin, making sure he's not going to get in anyway, and he's probably very grateful that he's got that big of a gap.
Very impressive, and I think we might have seen that Smith and Goodway maybe could have battled a lot earlier, but both maybe have decided against it, hoping that the battles between Papadopoulos and Moore that we've seen earlier would bridge enough of a gap for them to give everything, and I think that might have paid off very heavily because, again, it would have been a lot worse than it was. So there's the replay. The Goodway was just millimeters from hitting through the back of Smith and was just very lucky not to have done so. You could just see the steering done everything he possibly can to hopefully aim it straight, but it just wasn't enough for Dave, and unfortunately for him it will only be 4th, but I think that was still a very good attempt regardless for Dave. And that will be it for race 2. We've got race 3 just a very short moment, but we can go through our unofficial race results for race 2 as Callum Wilson will make it 2 races in a row in his end, and Jason Taylor will make it a BMW 1-2 again in race 1 and race 2. Alan Smith for the Hyundai is over at 3rd. A very good performance for him, with Dave Goodway, the championship leader, doing everything he can, but it'll only be 4th for him. Marcin Moore and Antonius Papadopoulos, both with the great duo. It's Antonius that comes ahead of Marcin for 5th for Vauxhall, with Moore on 6th for Toyota. Carlo Messina with an incident all the way back into 12th, but does recover through to 7th for the Cupra, with Tom Brunel in 8th for the Vauxhall, Milos Cherzan for the Toyota in 9th, and Flynn Hewson for the Cupra completes through to our top 10. I've only got one more finisher in 11th, and I believe that is Stu Rogers, who's suffered but does manage to finish. Don Wilkins and Dave Brewster are our only retirements here for race 2. We actually only got 2 retirements in both races. So race 3, we're not sure if race 2 will either bring more retirements, but if it brings the same amount of retirements, I'll be pleasantly impressed.
Yeah, just showing overall decent racing between everyone. It's very clean, it's very respectful. We've seen here and there where it's just beautiful racing, especially with those moves down through Brooklyn into Club Corner. We've seen several times that they're able to hold it wheel to wheel into that sharp braking zone that you said, in that medium braking zone, entering the sharp chicane. Yeah, just overall brilliant racing from the entire field.
We got our true random generator, and 12, I think, is going to be our reverse pole position. So, wait, why does it say 15 if there's only 12 that come? So if that's the case, then I think Doug Wilkins might be our reverse pole sitter, I believe.
So yeah, there's just come through now that Doug Wilkins will be our reverse pole position, with Stu Rogers joining him on the front row, Amir.
That'll be very interesting. I think Wickens did have the potential, which just didn't quite. I think it was just very unfortunate for the way the retired he did, but he did seem to have pretty decent pace up against like Papanopoulos and Goodway. So from him starting the front row, he could definitely muster maybe a podium. I think a podium could definitely be on the cards for the Ford driver. But again, this is going to be a very good question for how well for Taylor, Wilson, and Brewster, the all three BMWs, they're all starting at the very back row, so this could be incredibly interesting to see. We've not quite seen, Alex, how well the BMW does in terms of overtaking. We've seen how well they can do in terms of leading from Taylor and Wilson, but never how they do in terms of overtake. So this could be completely different for Taylor and Wilson to muster here.
Yeah, obviously we've seen how Callum Wilson and Jason A. Taylor just being at the front there. Obviously they're using that clean air, but will the balance be affected by the dirty air at Amir? We've obviously seen that Brewster obviously struggling a bit. I'm not sure if that's just because overdriving the car. Obviously we've seen that before with other drivers where they just overdrive the car, make a lot of mistakes. They just need to keep their confidence high, just minimize their mistakes and overall damage limitation.
Yeah, absolutely. Just warm up slowly coming to its end in a few short moments. We'll see how the people starting in the back who have lead so well. I think the other thing as well is like unlike themselves that might have been doing effectively qualifying lines, really in Thruxton, because of the dirty air that's produced, you also need to oh boy, how do I say this? Learn to deviate a bit from the racing line in order to avoid the heavy effects of the dirty air. So again, that's another big challenge for you to do that. Actually, I've got a very curious question while we're approaching through to the end of the warm up. Remco, have you raced in Thruxton before?
I personally have not. No.
What about you, Remco? You did Thruxton before. Oh my, Remco. What I've heard with Remco, he said some very nice thing about UK tracks. So he did. He said England is the best motorsport racing destination in the world. He did not say that, but I don't think he said He said he does it. He's not quite sure if he's raced the Thruxton, but he has raced the BTCC cars, and I imagine it must have been a bit of a handful. I think so. I say that because I hate touring cars myself. I don't. No. Oh, the Q30 is it? I think it's the Q30. I believe. Yeah. The Infinity is a good fun one. I don't know about you, Alex, but I've never been. It's not that I hate touring car racing. I love watching it. I think it requires such a precise skill set that I don't think I could ever master. It requires almost borderline drifting at times for the corners, and yeah, it's just really, really hard to really keep it aiming straight. But well, we're approaching our through to the end of our warm-up very shortly, and we'll be going through to our final race, and this is going to be a very, very interesting way to see how this will shape through the championship standings. I think we could give you the championship standings, I think, and how this will affect both the rear wheels and the front wheel classes once race 3 comes through to its end. And I just realized for the sponsors, very funny. But I'm not. Are the sponsors real? I need to check if they're real. I need to check if they're real. You okay? Oh, we might have a little bit of issue. Oh yeah. That Remco saying that the overlays are stuck or refresh. That I get that feeling, Remco. That really sucks. Do you want to? Ooh boy. I don't. I never fix it. I just cry. It's okay. We can maybe do it without overlays, maybe. But if overlay is such a dire, you can leave the server and rejoin it. That's what I would recommend. I know it just like flashes over because it's like cycles. Oh, refresh, refresh. So I'm wondering if it might be good to leave and rejoin, if that might help. Anyways, we're approaching for a little bit of technical issues with the overlay, with the warm-up coming to end. We will be broadcasting through live free, but just give us a very short moment and we'll be able to figure things out on our end. So until then, we'll see you shortly.
Calling to say I calling to say I say
fine. Back racing live here for race 3, and already a pretty decent start there. And we're going trouble though up ahead though. Will someone hitting over for the grass? Will drop for a couple positions as the BMWs make their way on through. That would have been, from what we have seen earlier, having started already back in 11 and 10 and make their way on through, as that's another of the Vauxhalls have gone a bit wide. Hits for one of the sponsorship boards. Does rejoin just barely a bit ahead, but will lose out on P10, I believe. So already a lot of things kicking off here at the first lap. Alex joins alongside me once again. We apologise a bit for the overlay issues. No, it's not Remco's fault whatsoever. It is a little bit of rFactor 2's issues. But Alex, what do you think of this race that we've seen so far? Look at this back down through to the inside though for turn 1.
Yeah, it's very racy, obviously. We have seen that the BMWs have already carved their way through the field. They're nearly at the front already. It's just that rear-wheel drive, just using it to their advantage. But the Vauxhalls are looking very loose there, Amir. I'm not sure if he's just under pressure and contact. One of them spins round. I think that is either a Cupra or a Vauxhall, but just losing it on the curb there after contact.
Probably one of the Cupras, I believe, out on exit. I'm wondering if that, I'm not quite sure who would have that been. I'm curious to see how, I think it was Doug Wickens that was starting on the pole, how he's going to be getting on. And we'll see there, look at side by side in the quest for the lead of the race. And could be making his way through. He does make his way on through. Fantastic overtake. And second place does get through onto the lead. We're going to see a little bit of contact. They're coming a little bit from behind. And it could have ended absolutely dangerously as the BMW, here we go. We have not seen a BMW lead up until this point here for lap number 2, and they're going to be going side by side through. Oh my goodness, be a little bit of contact, just a little bit. One of the BMWs makers there on 3. Is it going to be 2 overtakes by the BMWs? It is certainly going to be, and unfortunately for that car, he's got absolutely mauled.
Yeah, very clean, respectful racing from all parties. We saw it going 3 wide into Club as we head now into Camp Helen Cobb. Is it going to be a move down the inside for the BMW? Is he able to hold it very nearly contact? There is a bit of door contact there on the entrance through into Cobb and then onto the exit of Seagrave as we go through now onto the exit. But the BMW is now leader, Mir.
Got contact a little bit off into the grass, and look at this, he's lost 3 positions in the span of that corner. So the BMWs indeed have inherited their leads, and well, it's been a fantastic performance for what they've done in the first 2 races, and they're repeating from where they have started effectively. But unfortunately, from what we have seen before, they could be fighting amongst themselves for the lead of the race. So this is going to be very, very interesting to see what will brew up between this fight between Wilson and Taylor. It is for P1 and P2.
Yes, and I believe Wilson is the car behind of the 2 BMWs. I believe that is Taylor leader. I remember that Wilson's car had that the British flag, or the English flag, sorry, on that rear wing. As we see, I believe it's Taylor now, and then is that maybe McKenna? Sorry, or
I think it might be Carlo Messina, I believe, and the car behind is Doug Wilkins, I think. So we're doing a lot of estimation here without our trusty overlay, but if we did get it wrong, our deepest apologies.
Yeah, Messina now keeping that P3, I believe, but just using that BMW as a bit of a tow, possibly, just trying to make sure that they build a gap to the cars behind, but it's also allowing that the gap between the 2 BMWs are growing as well. Are the BMW going to be playing a bit of team orders? Are they going to be trying to make sure at least one of them gets that win by sacrificing the other, Amir?
I'll have to see. This is going to be further down behind. Ooh, I think I might know who this is, but couldn't quite put my finger on it. He's up against Marcel Merle, though. This could be a very interesting battle from what we've seen. We've seen that car kind of struggle just a little bit. Oh, I'm trying to remember its name. What was his name, Alex?
I think that was Alan Smith in the Hyundai, Amir.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much. It is Alan Smith. It's Alan Smith, and I think it's Marcelo, I think it is. Well, we have to see. Coming up over ahead, this is going to be over for the club. We've also got side-by-side up ahead between the Vauxhall and the Cooper up ahead. And the Vauxhall makes his way on for a pass that could be, I think that's either Papadopoulos or Brunel. I think it might be Brunel. Brunel gets himself up ahead of position. And Papadopoulos through behind could be invited into this. As we see there with Alan, he's going to maybe, he's actually catching up a little bit to the Vauxhall actually. So even the Vauxhall might be thinking ahead. Could be worrying about this one though. Look at this, an absolute dive bomb there, but the Vauxhall does the switch back through to retain through the position. And Smith might be a little bit surprised. He might be losing a position to the Toyota behind.
That That was a massive lockup from Alan Smith there. Very well held by the Vauxhall, I believe it was, to do the switchback. Yes, it was the Vauxhall to complete the switchback, but we're just seeing a bit of pressure on Alan Smith. Obviously, we saw it at the very end of race 2 where he was under pressure from the front wheel championship leader, but now in the dirty air at the back of the field, are we just seeing those little defections of the Hyundai? Obviously, it seemed good in the clean air, but now we're seeing it in the midfield and in the back, and also just looking very uncomfortable as we see a bit of grass being kicked up.
Smith might be making for a move into club. I think he did make the move, I believe. I'm not quite sure. Oh no, he's gone off. He's spun around. It doesn't manage to recover. He does recover. The Vauxhall immediately has to take avoiding action. And unfortunately for him, he doesn't at all gain any positions whatsoever. An absolute scare, but great recovery there by Smith as he does damage limitations at that moment. His tires must be absolutely cooked though, so he has to be very cautious from here on out.
Yep, Alan Smith very lucky not to flip over. We saw him on 2 wheels as he goes for a move on the Cooper, very close to contact. Smith is under all of the pressure now. He just looks like he's trying to overdrive the car to keep up with everyone else. It's just showing that Hyundai is struggling in the dirty air, but he's going to have a run on the Cooper, I believe.
Seems to be much better through the low speed corners, I think, and you can just sort of start to see the Cooper up ahead struggling so immensely through these high speed corners. Couldn't quite get it as much stable as the longer Hyundai could, and Smith finds an opening and he's certainly going to make a try through. He's approached over through to the third sector, a slightly hard braking zone through, but he's got much better line and a better speed to make his way on through, and makes his way through. He certainly does, with a little bit on the grass and looking for the behind the Toyota, makes his way on past 3. Is he going to make it 2 overtakes? We have to wait and see, as this is going to get a little bit messy in through the club. Who will emerge through Darrison? Smith has to immediately go for an offense against the Cupra, as up for a head it's the Toyota that manages to still hold on through to the lead, as I think that's Marston who's going to try his best to make his way up ahead, but he's not quite close enough to be invited into this fight just yet, Alex.
Yeah, a battle of 2 could easily become a battle of 5. As we see one of the Toyotas onto the grass, I believe, as it's looking at a go, trying to go around the outside. Is the Toyota on the Vauxhall, I believe it is. Very difficult to tell who it is just without our overlay. But Alan Smith now in the clean air looks to be pulling away a bit, but this could easily go wrong into a battle of 5.
That might be, I'm not sure that might be Brunel, but looks as easily makes his way on through with the sheer fantastic line and the speed that the Toyota had over the Vauxhall. Immediately makes his way through, but the Vauxhall trying his best to retaliate there. I'm not sure, my goodness me, I think that might be Papanopoulos, but yeah, makes his way on through, and I think Morrow makes his way up a position. I think he's got car up ahead upcoming next, but we'll see how well also that goes. We've also got another driver as well who didn't put their name in, so their name is currently what's their name again? Their name is Johnny Sutton, actually. So we'll have a look to see where he is. I think he's starting from last, but I'm not quite sure where he is actually.
Yeah, we're now watching the Vauxhall trying to put pressure on that Toyota to get that position back. If it is Antones, it's going to be race 2 all over again, where he's battling that Toyota for the P5. It's just let down in the field, but he's going to have a look on the inside, but he's just not able to get it close enough under the braking. The gap was just too big as we see him head through the first chicane now.
The other Vauxhall in the similar livery was Dave Goodway, and he also started, I think, a bit back, so it could also be him in this picture as well. So I think we'll certainly see. I think I might put my bets that might be Papanopoulos, but if it's oh my goodness, man, I thought that was something else. My bad. I thought that was a Sports Direct sponsorship, but no, it was an office. So I'm seeing many things, Alex.
Yeah, again. We can see that Alan Smith now in the clean air is massively pulling away. It's the Vauxhall bouncing on the curb there, sorry. Took a lot of curb, but Alan Smith is just pulling away now. Is he going to be trying to catch to the Vauxhall up ahead? That Vauxhall looked to have lost the rear end. This is what Alan Smith perfectly wants. It's a beautiful chicane from him as he makes his way onto the next lap. This is what he wants. He wants the Vauxhall to be doing the mistakes so he can catch up.
Yeah, we're, I think, slowly approaching through to the half race distance at the moment. You can sort of start to see a fight breaking down behind, and it could maybe materialize into a hard braking zone, or maybe up here. They're not quite close enough to make a move, but look at this one that is going to make a move though, between the Cooper for the Toyota. They both make a little bit of contact though, and the Cooper comes much worse off of it, and the Toyotas could be in the midst of a battle for themselves between Marcin and the other driver. But the Cooper, I think, could be witnessing our first retirement here. No, he does keep the car running. Oh, just turns a little bit too aggressively with too much speed. We'll see if he'll be able to reverse. I think he's still somewhat moving, or could be calling it quits. No, he does reverse and is pointed through to the right way and rejoins the track, unfortunately, in P13. I don't think we have any retirements at the moment, but yeah, very interested to have seen. That's, I think, our first proper incident that we've caught live on pictures, and unfortunately we just couldn't quite see what had really happened. I think that seemed to be a little bit of I'm not sure if I would call it as a racing incident, but it was just really hard to keep the car control for that Cooper. And you see up ahead between the two Vauxhalls, they could be amidst a battle themselves, but we'll see if things develop ever so more between these two. I think it is Papadopoulos and Goodway, I think.
Yeah, a bit of information on that. I personally, on that incident, sorry, mate, I feel like it was just a bit of a racing incident. Obviously, we saw the cheer on the outside, but it just did look like the Cooper just made a bit of a mistake, just taking a bit of oversteer on that curb. I just think that overall it was fair racing that just went a bit wrong, unfortunately. We see the Vauxhall now just trying to catch up to another Vauxhall up ahead, sorry, but that Vauxhall up ahead is catching the two Toyotas, so maybe we could see once again a massive battle that could easily become more. Obviously, we saw it with Alan Smith, sorry, and the other cars. We can obviously see now is the Vauxhall going to have a try and get a move on the exit of Church Corner, running wide onto the curb, but this is the move that the Vauxhall wants, heading down towards Brooklands and towards Club Corner.
We'll see, have a look to see if there's going to be any move to be made, though. Look at this, barges way up through to the inside. Goodway makes his way on past through Milos, and then fantastic move there from P6 there from Goodway. So I think it was Goodway that was making it, but that was Brunel behind that was running in P9. Thank you very much, Remco, for that. I've also have the live timings up ahead just for a little bit more assistance. But Goodway easily makes his way on through to the final corner. He's got Marcin Mora up ahead in P5 as Alan Smith is still holding on through to P4. There's Papadopoulos in P3, so he's been doing very well in this reverse grid. And I want the leader, I believe it is Taylor. Sorry, it's Wilson that still leads from Taylor in second. So I think they exchange positions at the start, and Wilson is once again leading in a very similar dominant fashion. You like this, Alex? It's 6 seconds actually is the gap between himself and Taylor.
Yes, obviously we saw that at the end of race 2, but Alan Smith has caught up to Antonis. We know that Hyundai is very strong in the clean air, and we know that the Hyundai is a lot stronger through the slow corners than the Vauxhall. But into Club Corner now, we know that this braking zone can be quite long into the chicane. We've seen it before with a Vauxhall and the Hyundai going wheel to wheel through there, not able to make that move, but heading onto the main straight, heading towards Allard Corner through to Campbell. Smith, sorry, just able to keep the speed going, heading towards Campbell.
Lap 13 out of 16, we've still got a handful of laps left to go, but no position is at all safe enough, especially this one between Papadopoulos and Smith. Smith could be in course to recovering his the issues that he's had previously in the first 2 races, and I think we must say the Hyundai looks a little bit better than that of the Vauxhall ahead of Papadopoulos. Papadopoulos, though, has done extremely well. He's definitely one of the best Vauxhall drivers to have kept it under control, though, but he's really unstable through to the second sector, and this could be Alan Smith's position for the takedown, and he could be in a chance for himself to get into P3, but time will certainly tell if he will make that opportunity, and will make it count if that gap between himself and Papadopoulos is at all close enough. We're approaching over through to the longest straight before the club, and we'll see if Smith can do a better line than Papadopoulos to make it closer through once again. You can see through up ahead there's through one of the 4 drivers, though, but look at this between Goodway and Marcin Moore. This is going to be in a battle for P5. They'll be in a position to battle through to club for the final corner. Goodway is doing his best to absolutely deny him the opportunity, and deny he certainly does. Morrow's got no chance to make it side by side on the final corner, and he's got to find another way to make his way past through Goodway.
Yeah, we see Goodway and Morale battling here for P5, but up ahead, Smith and Antonis definitely looked like they were approaching that traffic. I couldn't catch Dave as we see on Marcel down the inside into Campbell, now towards Cobb Corner and into Seagrave. Marcin, Morale, and Dave Goodway wheel to wheel, and Goodway once again just able to keep that exit going.
A good battle between these two, and again pitching their car quite well. Papadopoulos is kind of doing the same thing against Smith. He's got no choice but to do so. On the XF for Village, though, a brief touch into the grass, though. Papadopoulos manages to keep it straight, but Smith smells an opening, and he's going to try and utilize that to his fullest for the club. Is this the opening that Smith has been waiting for many laps ago? He's going to try and deviate from the racing line. Is he going to go late on the brakes to go side by side? Papadopoulos can't do much to respond, and side by side they're still going to go for a club. But Smith has made it through, and Antonis, with the bit of the contact, loses out on P3. What a brilliant overtake there by Smith it is, as we approach through to one of our final laps.
Yeah, Goodway just still being able to keep it against Morel, but what a move it was from Smith. A bit of contact on the exit, but all is fair in British touring cars. We've seen it before on other overtakes in race 2 and race 1. Morel might have a look down the inside into Campbell. He's just not able to get it stopped, or is he? No, he's not, unfortunately. Just not able to bring it up wheel to wheel with Goodway. Goodway's just trying to park the bus, just acting ever so defensive. But this could be helping his fellow Vauxhall teammate in P4. He's just trying to build that gap, making sure that Vauxhall will score good points in the championship.
Absolutely, and it's going to be all the more important for Goodway as well, who's the championship leader. As damage limitation says, wanting to hold on to that the championship lead, I think. So that's going to be all the more important, as I think we're going to witness for Callum Wilson. I think he's going to start for his last lap as he approaches through lap 16 out of 16. Phil Houston, meanwhile, in P9 is in the mid with Brunel and Cherzan in this train battle, as I think I heard Remco say something to my ears, but look up ahead, that is Stu Rogers that we were seeing earlier. That was in the midst of this lap traffic, and this could be pretty big. If he doesn't move out the way, then this could be the opening that Papadopoulos will want against Smith, but unfortunately Rogers, I think, occupies the area that Papadopoulos was hoping to make, Alex.
Yep, Stu Rogers doing a good thing, staying out of the way of the leaders. He knows they're not that fight. But overall, this has just helped Alan Smith. and Antonis could not get onto the inside because of Stu Rogers. But this has just given a bit of that breathing room for Alan Smith, letting that Hyundai get in the clean air. We know how good it is in the clean air. We know how stable it is. And we've seen that, I think Antonis is just starting to overdrive the car a bit. We've seen him on the grass when defending, as we see Callum Wilson entering the final club corner. He has won race 1 and race 2. Rounding the final corner, Callum Wilson will take the checkered flag and will win race 3. It's a BMW sweep here at Thruxton. Jason A. Taylor, 3 P2s. I think BMW are going to be very happy with that. And it's 3 1-2s for BMW. But at the back here, Alan Smith taking the inside line. And Tony's very loose. Is he going to try and use that to his advantage? No, he just can't hold it on. Alan Smith takes a P3. And Tony's with the best result of his weekend at P4 here at Thruxton. And Dave Goodway managing to keep it in P5.
That's very good there. Great battling that we've seen through ahead. And we can start Brunel. Is he going to lose out against Flint Hudson? There's going to be a bit of contact though. Houston might have stolen it from him right through to the line. And I think he is certainly done with that bit of contact. Brunel is absolutely stunned by that as he loses a position through to the checkered flag. And that was absolutely astonishing. Stu Rogers does complete through a lap down to finish through our top 10. And unfortunately, we've had a couple of retirements. Carlo Messina was our retirement in, he finishes in 11th. Oh boy, who was the other, God, I'm trying to remember, my bad, Dave Brewster was another one, and, and your name, I think we've already mentioned about for that one, Stutton, I think it was our another retirement, so we've got 3 retirements, again. Yeah, that was a great race. It was pretty hectic. Johnny Stoughton, it was the debutant, unfortunately retired as well. But Callum Wilson, what we can just say, a triple sweep. It's just been his day, hasn't it? It's been absolutely fantastic for him.
Yeah, the BMWs just look to be the class of the field here at Thruxton. We saw it 3-1-2s. Unfortunately, Dave Brewster just couldn't use that BMW to his advantage, and he was just unable to keep it in the top 10. But I'm shocked at what happened at the end there with Tom Brunel. It just looked like he lost a bit on the exit, just making that bit of contact with either the Cupra or the Vauxhall. And it was a brilliant wheel-to-wheel battle after the little bit of contact there, Amir.
Yeah, I think so, and it's just very fortunate. I think it also depends on the racing trick and how close the finish line is. Sometimes you might go through the ones like, oh, the race is finished, but Thruxton is just, I think the finish line is the same as the start. So again, very, very unexpected that by Brunel to have made that, and just the amount of rubbing that was happening. I don't think Brunel was expected to lose out on P8 like that. But at the end, I think Callum Wilson will still hold on through to the to his class. He's won every single race that he has competed in terms of his class so far, and he will continue that in absolute style. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 12, 15 races in a row in terms of the class for him. So he's pulled that championship lead even more. Of course, there's I think there's 2 worst results don't count, and then Jason Tetto for how well he's done in second place. I think jumps John Wiltridge in that championship as well. And then in the front wheel class, I believe Goodway might still hold on through to the lead. I think he does. I'm pretty sure he does. Yeah, I think he does by very close, but I'm not quite sure. Papadopoulos and Smith were tied for second and third, but I think Goodway, I think in general, had better results, but I'm not quite sure. Color Messina, I think still holds on through to 4th place as well. But until then, I think that has been us. We'll bring you more for the official standings through to our next race as we approach once again to the very next round. We will be back in round 6 to continue through to the rest of our championship. But it's Knockhill that will be here next time round. With I'm not sure if it'll be us, but it might be other commentators that would be joining alongside us as Knockhill will continue through to the second half of our championship. It begins over there in Scotland. Feel free to tune in to then. August the 11th will be around here, same time, same place, with the qualifying and both races. But until then, thank you very much to Alex Patani for joining alongside me. Thank you very much to my very good friend Remco Dezale for all the troubles he has to deal with. He did absolutely fantastic. I've been Amir. Thank you very much for watching, and thanks for tuning in to Formula Racing League. We'll see you at Knockhill.